Hello fellow duelists, my name is VideoJames, and today we're going to be doing another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile. So, been a while since I did one of these. In fact, I think my Dynamist deck profile was back in June of last year, I believe. So, been a while since we've done this, and since then, something absolutely amazing has happened. The June emergency ban list came out. So if you don't know what happened on the June emergency ban list, basically a lot of good stuff got hit that needed to get hit. Those Zodiacs got hit really bad. But the major things that happened were Monster Reborn and Solemn Judgement came back into the game. Let me repeat that. Monster Reborn and Solemn Judgement. Konami basically just said, let's slip the dogs of war, and sent everyone out to go put Monster Reborn into every single deck they run. But for today, we're going to be looking at my Slifer the Sky Dragon deck. Now this deck is just particularly a deck that I like to play for fun. Slifer is actually my favorite Egyptian god. I do have an actual Egyptian god deck that I am testing out right now to see if it's any good. It doesn't really work out that well because I kind of based it off the Slifer deck and I kind of need to make it all more well-rounded. So I'm trying to get that nailed down. But with the Slifer deck, I feel like it's good for just fun duels with friends and stuff like that. I wouldn't really take it to competitive just because it kind of can't really keep up with all the stuff like pendulums and I guess a lot of stuff that special summons like ABC Dragon Busters. It really can't keep up with that. But it's just a fun deck to play around with and have some fun. It's not really, again, competitive, but it is a fun deck. So, main deck, we're basically running 40 cards. Extra deck, we're only really running 1 minus the tokens. So let's actually just get into this profile. So for the monsters, we're starting out with, obviously, 2 Slifer the Sky Dragon. Now, Slifer the Sky Dragon is, again, my favorite Egyptian god. And basically what he does is a level 12 Divine with question mark attack and defense. Requires 3 tributes to normal summon, can't be normal set, just like the other gods. And if it's normal summon, cards and effects can't be activated during the end phase. If it was special summoned, you gotta send it to the graveyard. But Slifer gains 1000 attack and defense for every card in your hand, and it destroys any monster that your opponent summons in attack mode on their side of the field with 2000 attack points or less. So, say I were to summon, just to use an example, Ra's Disciple. Slifer's effect kicks off, and it actually just destroys the Ra's Disciple, sends it to the graveyard. Meaning, if I do try and summon the other 2 Ra's Disciple from my deck, then Slifer's just going to end up nuking them as well. So, Slifer's ability really does kick off against stuff like, again, ABC Dragons. It can really do a good amount of damage to stuff that has, like, low attack monsters that it needs to get out. Like, Blue Eyes, Slifer kind of shuts down all the tuners for Blue Eyes. It can't really shut down stuff if you get out, like, number 107, because that kind of shuts Slifer down itself. But still, he is one of my favorite Egyptian gods, and my favorite Egyptian god. And honestly, not really a monster to sneeze at. And then we also have 3 Ra's Disciple. Now, this is going to be your main focus on summoning Slifer. That Ra's Disciple is going to be your main key at getting Slifer the Sky Dragon out onto the field. So basically, Ra's Disciple's effect is when he is summoned, you can special summon up to 2 Ra's Disciple from your hand or deck, and they cannot be tributed except for Slifer, Obelisk, or Ra, and you can't special summon other monsters except by the effect of Ra. Well, Ra's Disciple. And it's just a level 4 light monster with 1100 attack and 600 defense. So basically, this thing is going to be your ultimate combo at getting Slifer out on the field. That you're going to want to get this on the field first turn, just so you can pull off the massive 1-turn Slifer combo. Which is basically, you take 2 other cards from this deck that you're going to always want to run. Card Advance and the True Name. These are 2 cards that you're definitely going to want to run in almost every Egyptian god deck. And that's because of Ra's Disciple. So basically, you activate Card Advance, you get to set the top 5 cards of your deck in any order you want and put them back on top of the deck. And then you activate the True Name, and you call whatever card you placed on top of your deck. And if that was Ra's Disciple, you call Ra's Disciple's name, you use the True Names effect, get Ra's Disciple to your hand, and then you can also add Slifer the Sky Dragon to your hand if you don't already have it. Or you can just add a second one to your hand and beef up your hand even more. And because of Ra's Disciple, you can special summon 2 more. And then you get your trade fodder, But wait, we already normal summoned. Thanks to card advance, we get an extra tribute summon. So after we normal summon Ra's Disciple, sacrifice all 3, get out the Slifer Sky Dragon, and we have at least 3 more cards in our hand. So this thing can give you an instant 3000 monster first turn, and then you just activate something like Mound of the Bound Creator, and Slifer is prevented from being destroyed or targeted. And every time Slifer destroys something by battle, he'll take an extra 1000 points of damage to your opponent. So overall, Ra's Disciple is a very important monster to be running in this deck. You definitely always want to run 3 Ra's Disciple if you're even thinking of running an Egyptian God deck. And then next up, we're running what I like to call the Draw Trio. So we have 3 Crystal Seer and 3 Dekoichi the Battlechanted Locomotive. So what Crystal Seer basically does is when it's flipped face up, you can pick up 2 cards from the top of your deck, basically excavate them, and then place one in your hand and put the other one on the bottom of your deck. So it's basically like an excavator that it's set it face down, your opponent attacks it, flip face up, you get its effect off, and then it goes to the grave. And then we have Dekoichi. When it's flipped face up, because it actually has a flip effect as well, when it's flipped face up, you get to draw a card, plus you get to draw another card for every Boikoichi that you have on the field. So basically, if you have Boikoichi in this deck, along with Dekoichi, then you can run them both, and you'll actually be able to get off a decent amount of draw fodder for Slifer the Sky Dragon, and just make his attack even stronger. So these monsters are good for actually running in the deck. You can run them basically just as draw fodder, or you can run them as setting up next turn for being able to summon Slifer the Sky Dragon. Now another key monster in this deck is 3 Marshmacaron. Now, if you don't know what Marshmacaron does, it is a level 1 light monster that says when it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon up to 2 other Marshmacaron from your hand, deck, or graveyard, but you can only use that effect once per turn. So it's basically like Scapegoat, but instead of actually doing what Scapegoat does and letting you get 4 monsters, it lets you get the other 2 versions of itself. So say my opponent had Slifer out on the field, and I summoned a Marshmacaron in attack mode. Slifer destroys the Marshmacaron, and now I get to special summon the other 2 in defense mode, meaning Slifer doesn't take them out. So basically, Marshmacaron's kind of just your, again, Slifer fodder, or protection, that you can run it in case you need to absorb an attack from your opponent next turn that might kill you. Set a Marshmacaron, they destroy it, you get 2 others, you get a wall for at least a couple more turns. And then I'm also running 2 Scapeghosts, and the Scapeghost is one of my favorite of the new monsters that got released. So basically what Scapeghost does is it's like a monster version of Scapeghost. When you flip it face up, you can special summon any number of black sheep tokens, and they're all level 1 with 0 attack and 0 defense, just like Scapeghost. Now, what I really like about Scapeghost is he's very useful when it comes to getting out the one Synchro monster you run in this deck, Formula Synchron. And the reason you're running Formula Synchron is because of its effect to allow you to draw. So basically what happens is you set Scapeghost. If your opponent doesn't attack it, that's great, because next turn, flip it face up, the Scapeghost effect kicks off. You get the other 3 or 4 tokens that you need. You sacrifice 2 of them with Scapeghost to get out Formula Synchron, and then you just use the rest to summon Slifer. So it's basically a really cut and dry strategy that comes with Scapeghost, but it's one that's very efficient, because not only do you get more fodder for Slifer's summon, but you also get a draw fodder as well that works out very nice. Then we also have 2 Mecha Phantom Beast Hamstrat. Basically, when it's flip face up, you get 2 Mecha Phantom tokens, and while you control a token, Hamstrat doesn't get destroyed by battle or card effect. So that actually works out really well with Scapeghost, that you set Scapeghost, the effect kicks off, you get the tokens, and then Scapeghost gets destroyed. And then next turn, you just summon Hamstrat face down, your opponent attacks it, flip it face up, you get extra 2 tokens if you can, and Hamstrat doesn't get destroyed by battle, because you already had tokens on the field. Now, when he's flipped face up for the first time, if there are no tokens on the field when he's flipped face up, he will actually get destroyed by battle. I actually had to learn that loophole the hard way. And then we're also running 2 Sphere Kuribohs. You can side deck this for Battle Fader. In fact, I'm kind of tempted to, except for the fact that it kind of lets Slifer get that one chance to kill something. So Sphere Kuriboh is basically, if your opponent declares an attack, you can discard Kuriboh, and you can send the attacking monster into defense position. And you can ritual summon by banishing this from one of your graveyard as one of the ritual monsters. So overall, Sphere Kuriboh's just got a lot more usefulness in it. If you want to run something like, say, Paladin of White Dragon, then you actually can and get out Sphere Kuriboh and just add a Blue Eyes to your hand or something. I don't know. I forget what Paladin actually does. I should probably look that up. And then the last monster in the deck is just one Deep Diver. So Deep Diver is basically, if it's destroyed at the end of the battle phase, you can choose one monster from your deck and put it on top of your deck. So you can use that for like Slifer the Sky Dragon, Ra's Disciple, basically whichever one you don't have yet is basically what you want to use Deep Diver for. That's about it for the monsters. And then moving on to spells, we have, of course, the 3 card advance and the true name. Or the 2 true name, my mistake. So basically these cards are going to be your bread and butter of this deck. That you want to run these in not only a Slifer deck, but in any Egyptian God deck that you're running. So basically what card advance does is it lets you look at the top 5 cards of your deck and put them in any order that you want. And it also grants you an extra tribute summon, but you only get this effective card advance once per turn. So you can't activate 3 in one turn and just be like, oh, I'm going to get 3 extra tribute summons and get 3 Egyptian gods out. No, they worked out that loophole. And then what the true name does is you can declare one card name, excavate the top card of your deck, and if it's right, you add the card to your hand, and you can either special summon a divine monster or add it to your hand. But if you get it wrong, you have to send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. So basically, these things just work out amazingly for getting off Slifer with that first turn combo. Like I said, you use card advance, put Ra's Disciple on top of your deck, use a true name, get Ra's Disciple, get the other 2 out on the field, and then just sacrifice them for Slifer. So overall, that combo is going to be like a wham-bam 1-2 punch for basically any time you're running this deck. Now we're also running 2 Mound of the Bound Creator. Now, you don't really need to run 3, because that kind of clogs up the deck. It kind of prevents you from reaching what you need to. So I feel like 2 is a good amount, plus you don't really need it that much. Typically, when you're running this deck, Slifer is going to have nearly 5,000 attack points most of the time anyway. At least for me, he's had 5,000 most of the time. I know if you're running like the fairy version of a Slifer deck, he'll actually end up having 21 attack points in one turn, or 21k attack points in one turn, so he can just end up becoming an overpowered, unstoppable beast with Mound of the Bound Creator. So basically what it does is level 10 or higher monsters on the field can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects, and if a level 10 or higher monster on the field destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, the person who controlled it takes 1,000 damage, and if Mound of the Bound Creator is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can add a divine monster to your hand. So say someone activates Twin Twister or Mystical Space Typhoon, they take out Mound of the Bound, it gets sent to the graveyard. Okay, now I get to add a Slifer to my hand. And then next turn you just activate your second Mound of the Bound and summon Slifer. And it's basically just that simple. That Mound of the Bound acts as protection for your Egyptian god. And then when it comes to the staples, we've got 2 Mystical Space Typhoon. We all know what Mystical Space Typhoon does by now. If you don't, I don't even know why you're watching this video. We got 1 double summon, we got 1 terraforming, and then we have 1 of the almighty Monster Reborn. Now, if you don't know what Monster Reborn does, again, I'm ashamed of you, but Monster Reborn basically lets you target 1 monster in any graveyard and special summon it. So say Slifer was in my opponent's graveyard because they somehow got to keep it in their graveyard somehow. I activate Monster Reborn, take Slifer back, and I get to use it again for this turn. Or say I get a bunch of cards in my hand, but Slifer's already been destroyed. Okay, I activate Monster Reborn, bring back my Slifer. Now it has 8,000 attack points. Your life points are gone. Now you could also run Raigeki in place of, say, Double Summon. That sometimes Double Summon doesn't really do anything for you, so you could swap it out for Raigeki. But either way, it's just how you want to play it. That about does it for the spell cards. Like I said, the spell cards basically revolve around helping get Slifer out. So basically that's what you're going to be wanting to do with them. And then moving on to the trap cards, we have 3 Reckless Greed, basically Reckless Greed lets you draw 2 cards, but you have to skip your next 2 draw phases. So it's kind of like a Pot of Greed with a drawback. We have 2 Jar of Avarice. Now, Jar of Avarice lets you target 5 cards in your graveyard, except this card, and shuffle them all back into the deck, and then draw 1 card. Now, this is really great because of Ra's Disciple. So, say you already had all 3 Ra's Disciple put in the graveyard, a Slifer got destroyed, and let's say Card Advance got destroyed. Well, use Jar of Avarice, bring them all back, and just draw an extra card, and hopefully you draw something you need. So, Jar of Avarice not only acts as that recovery, but also as that draw +1. And then I'm also running 2 Dark Bribe. You could also run Solemn Judgement and Solemn Warning now that they're out. In fact, I've been thinking about swapping out Dark Bribe for Solemn Judgement and Solemn Warning. Mainly because Slifer doesn't really rely on life points like Ra, so we can kind of afford to lose them. So, replacing Dark Bribe with Solemn Judgement and Solemn Warning, probably a good idea. Unfortunately, I don't have either of those cards available, so I didn't really have them at the time. Plus, when the ban list came out, I had already made this deck, and I just adjusted it after the ban list with what I had. And then that does it for the traps. Like I said, basically just meant to draw out Slifer, or draw out power for Slifer. Then looking in the extra deck, again, we have Formula Synchron. Formula Synchron being a level 2 machine synchro tuner. When it's synchro summoned, you can draw 1 card. During your main phase, you can immediately synchro summon using Formula Synchron. So say you summon Formula Synchron using Scapeghost. Okay, now I get to draw a card, and I have TG Hyper Librarian in my extra deck still. Then we just use Formula Synchron effect next turn with probably Dekoichi, since it's another level 4. And we just use Formula Synchron and Dekoichi to sacrifice them and get out the TG Hyper Librarian. Now, I don't actually have TG Hyper Librarian, and I haven't really been able to find one. But if I do have one, it's going to go immediately in my Slifer deck. And then, of course, we've just got the 5 tokens that we use in this deck. I don't really have 5 tokens, per se. Well, I have 5 tokens, but these 3 are Hippo tokens. This is a Kuriboh token, and this is a Phantom token that I got from purchasing a card on Amazon. So, basically just run tokens, and you use these in this deck, and that's basically just all there is to tokens. So that is actually going to be it for my Slifer the Sky Dragon deck profile. Like I said, it's kind of more just a fun deck that you want to play around with. It's not really that great competitive-wise, because it can't really keep up. Because a lot of decks, like Odd Eyes and all that, they kind of run more on getting a bunch of monsters out in the field, rather than focusing on one. So Slifer's kind of got that outdated kind of play to him. But if you do like Slifer, or you like the Egyptian gods, and you want to run one of these kinds of decks, then go ahead. I've had, personally, a lot of fun using this Slifer deck to troll my friends, just because they think, okay, he doesn't have anything on the field, and then next turn I just pull out a 8,000 attack point Egyptian god card. But anyway, I'm going to leave this video here. I'll leave a list of the cards in the description, just in case any of you missed what cards they were, or you couldn't really tell. But for now, I'm leaving this video here. Next week, I'll be doing an update for my Blue Eyes White Dragon deck profile, because thanks to the ban list, I updated that as well. And Monster Reborn, ooh, Monster Reborn in that deck makes it so much fun. But anyway, I'm leaving this video here. If you guys liked it, you can slap the like button as always, and I'll see all you beautiful people in the next video.